I'm here to talk a less funny subject. I'm here to talk about anxiety, and I'm here to tell you my story. So, one time I was at a doctor's appointment, one of those you go like every year to do a checkup. And while I was doing the normal questions, have you been with somebody? Are you doing exercise? She asked me, can I measure your blood pressure? And I said, yes, why not? And while she did the exam, I started to feel like this anxious feeling. And I didn't know why that was happening, really. And then at the end, it revealed that I had high blood pressure. And for a young person like me, it's not normal. So she started to ask plenty of questions that my answer was quite, I don't know, I don't think so. But I remember, not remember, told her that I had anxiety. And she looked at me like, you have anxiety for? And I was like, four? And I made this mental list, these five things that I could remember at the top of my mind. Inflation, war on Ukraine, not knowing if my human rights will be respected in the next 10 years, not knowing if I'll ever be able to afford a house, not, not knowing if I'll have a livable planet by the time I'm 30. And this was just like 5 seconds. But what I really told her was like, I don't know, it happens, it's a thing. With this, I don't mean to say like I'm a mental health expert. I'm just a host to anxiety, like many people around the world. And that it happens in different reasons and has different responses. And today I meant to share my history with it. And this was just one story of, of many. Another one story is one time I work in the youth field and I work a lot with Erasmus projects. And that means that sometimes you have to meet other partners to share, to talk about projects. And we were in that part, when everybody introduces themselves around the table. And I was the last one. So I got to hear everybody tell their big curriculum. And I was just a new guy, the first months where you have nothing to say, really. And I just felt, that imposter syndrome, when you feel like everybody's better than you have nothing to add. Why am I here? I just want to go home, and feeling the anxiety just creeping in. And this is one of those moments where you realize that insecurities are a prime source for anxiety. Why couldn't I be as good as them? I was just new. Along the time, anxiety came in different forms. And I have to backtrack a bit on this. For example, socializing, meeting new people for me was always a challenge until to this day. Because as a child, when you start to experience the world, you start to face also its ugly side. And many times as a kid, I felt that people would look weird at me, and I would start to look at myself and think, maybe it's the color of my skin, or maybe it's the way, I express myself. Maybe it's not too masculine. And that made me feel like I had to go inside, that I couldn't be out in the world as I wanted to be. And so for many years, I struggled in silence, complete silence. And that meant that I was just accumulating in this safe space, me, pain, trauma, and keeping everything and everyone out. But then, unfortunately, we had the pandemic. I think we still all remember that, right? Yeah, that was a tough time, I guess, for everybody. And that meant, for me especially, that I had no distractions. So anxiety caught me up all alone at last. And that meant that I had to sit with it. And sitting with it meant I just was on a downward spiral of just me not being able to sleep, not being able actually to eat, not being able to dream. And bear with me, the dream part is what led me to my breaking point, to feeling like I couldn't handle it anymore, and to ask for help. And I think what's one of the bravest things I did in my short life is to ask for help, because I had nothing. Nothing else was possible at that moment. So one morning I woke up, I turned to my mother after not sleeping a whole night. Those anxiety nights where your mind just goes. And I told her, I can't do this anymore. I need help. And help meant therapy. And therapy is something that we don't talk about, but for me was a savior moment, or a delight moment if you want. In therapy, I had time to really go back on these episodes and to really understand that, okay, I'm a human being. I don't actually control anything. I just have to learn to deal with it. But I didn't say yes immediately. As you can imagine, it took time for me to actually understand this. Also, another thing, for me, vulnerability is still like a hard thing. And back then was the hardest. Like, how am I supposed to be vulnerable when we live in the world of pretense, right? And that is still something that I'm still working through. And I invite you all to work through, really. But in therapy, I also had to develop strategies because guess what? Anxiety doesn't go away with a few sessions. The life still goes on and stuff, life will trigger you a lot. So I had to come up with 5 strategies. These are my strategies, my responses. Don't take it as like the only thing you could do. It's just my story. One, I try to understand why I'm anxious. And this means that I try to root out in my mind what is going on. Where is this coming from? And when I find it, I'm like, ah, not a big deal after all. I can actually move on. But it takes time and braveness. The second one is self-love. Oof. This one is like, it's a journey. I'm still going through it. Probably until the day I die, I'll have plenty to say. But you have to understand that it's hard for everybody to love themselves. And nobody really teaches that, even though we all experience love. But as a black and a person that is also queer, it's double the task because it's something that it's not, let's say, accepted or interest or talked about. So that takes an extra mile to do. But it's important because it makes you more comfortable with yourself and it helps you with your anxiety because you're just not fighting yourself anymore. My third one is the one that I'm like, talking to others. Like, I love communicating, that's why I'm here, but I'm not a person say, I am struggling today, guys, let's talk about it. No. And I had to learn that in therapy to be able to say, today I'm not feeling well. I need my space. I don't want to talk to anybody really. I just want to go and block. And this is important because sometimes when we share that we are not okay, we'll find out that other people are going through the same. And this makes us have deeper connections and not to feel so alone because anxiety makes you believe that you are alone, which is not true at all. Another one for me is what we think isn't a fact. And bear with me, we all are like think what we think is what's gonna happen. Not really. We have to live to actually figure it out what's gonna happen. Really try everything you wanna do, even though anxiety is going to tell you maybe you're gonna die, you're gonna have a heart attack, you're gonna be stupid. Well, that's a possibility, but that doesn't mean it's what's going to happen. And the last one is long walks. Like I like to walk. I like walk. I'm walking backwards, but I like to walk somewhere. I like to walk without destination. And because I live in Lisbon, I can afford to go to the beach and just, enjoy it really. And this is helpful why? Because when you are walking, your mind is busy with something else besides your anxiety. It breaks down because obstacles, people, everything is going on besides it. And your body understands there's more going on. But I'm standing here not like a person that is perfect. Imagine, as I said, life is still going on when you're in therapy, when you have anxiety. For example, when my grandmother died, it was maybe one of the hardest periods of my life. Tragic, really. When you have to deal with such unbearable pain. And I felt at that time, that was a time where anxiety was going to regain its power over me because it was a tragic moment, a moment that I didn't control. But it didn't because I had these strategies and I had a different mindset that helped me push through, even though I was through unbearable pain. But guys, bear with me. I'm not sitting here as normal, whatever that means. No, I'm totally broken, but I'm not empty. This means that I still struggle and I'll forever struggle, but it's not like before. That's what makes the difference. Now I know that I have to continue to do the things that I care about, even though that's going to give me anxiety. Because believe me, because we care, we are going to be anxious about it. There's different levels of anxiety to be. For example, I care about this talk and I was anxious sitting there, but I'm still here making it. it's still possible to make things happen. It might not be perfect, but you did it. Because what anxiety really tries is to refrain you from having anything besides it. If you think about your anxiety moments, it's just there. You don't have anything, you're stuck in yourself. So go out, live, really live boldly, and be kind to yourself and to others. Thank you.